Beyond.
Yeah.
Beyond.
Yeah. Hey, we got microphones. That works. We're like just quietly
Right.
walking out. That's kind of weird.
We got way less couches than they had last night.
Yeah, the
real
sofa
downgrade.
game. I
I like
Is there a
that.
gap? We live in a
was
gap.
saving one for the Holy Ghost.
Thank you guys for coming. It's wonderful you could come to our weird vertical living room or whatever.
Thank you guys so much for coming out to Podcast Beyond Live at PSX 2017. This is so exciting for us. Yeah, thank you guys. So what we're going to do, well, I guess I'll introduce us. My name is Marty Sleva. I'm an executive editor at IGN. I'm here with...
I'm Max Scoville. I'm also at IGN. We all are from IGN.
Yeah.
Oh, God,
This
go
could take a while. I'm Alana Pierce. I'm a producer.
I'm Andrew Goldfire. I'm the one who talks about Pokemon all the time.
I'm Brian Altano. I'm a host and producer. Thank you for coming to our show.
How's everyone's PSX
Yeah,
going?
how's it been so far?
Seems all right.
Beautiful.
Before we start, can everyone in the room just yell Beyond at the same time? 1, 2, 3.
Beyond!
This is the last time all of you will agree on something.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing tonight, right? So we are ranking the 10 best PlayStation games of all time. And this is going from PS1 to PS4, including handhelds.
Quick question.
Yes.
What does best mean?
Yeah, that's a weird one, right?
Well, that's the struggle, right? It's the best game objectively versus our favorite. It's hard.
But
So
also,
we
like,
got rid of all of those rules.
Yeah.
This is not an official list by any means.
Yes.
We are going to argue a lot, and you are going to hate us by the end of it.
Yeah.
But we did have some rules in place
Yeah.
for choosing the games.
Yeah, so the rules were it has to be either just a flat-out PlayStation exclusive first-party game, or it could have been a game that launched on PlayStation. We all played it first on a PlayStation console, and then eventually came to something else. So games like Resident Evil 4 could not be on the list, because when that launched, that was a GameCube exclusive.
Yeah.
And Shinji Mikami said he would cut his own head off if it ever came anywhere but the GameCube. He still has a head, because he
That's
made
right.
a game this year.
Also, if that game was on the list, I would have talked about it for this entire panel.
Yeah, it probably
Probably
saved us.
good.
Yeah.
So yeah, each of us chose 2 games that we wanted to champion. And first, we're just going to go down the line, sort of say why we chose these games. And then once we know what the 10 are, we're going to start arguing and probably pull out weapons. But
Yeah.
eventually, we're going to rank them on this 1970s easel, which
Wow.
is nice.
Now, we haven't seen each other's picks yet.
No.
We
Yeah.
don't really. So we're as surprised about this as you are. So when it's bad, we'll all agree again there too.
I'm also just having faith that on the assumption that someone else put The Last of Us on there, didn't put it there. So I'm like, please, one of you have picked that game, because if we didn't, then let's just leave now. Like, what are we gonna
Yeah.
do?
No, I mean, if one of us dropped the ball like that, that'll be embarrassing. But we did do sort of like a blind,
Yeah.
like a blind vote.
I think
so,
Trusted
it's
Marty
good. Yeah,
to judge
have
it.
trusted me.
so that's all Marty's fault.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, you can blame me if you don't like it. I'll eat a mug on stage. I'm probably not going to do
Don't
that. Yeah, I lie a lot. But without further ado, let's start with Brian. Brian, I want to talk about your first pick, which is a game we've talked about quite a bit
Yes.
on Beyond over the last couple of years. Let's talk about Bloodborne.
Yes.
Okay. We're off to a good start.
Give it up for Bloodborne. This is not only one of my favorite PlayStation games, this is one of my favorite video games of all time. I think that when video games are difficult and they push back, it isolates a lot of players. And I think sometimes, that's good, and sometimes it's bad. I think this is specifically a game where, as you get better, you feel accomplished, you feel awesome. It does that while terrifying you. This is not a game that just makes you go, you suck, you're bad at games, keep going, keep trying. This is a game that does that and also goes like, was that a horse, man? Like, is that like a bone wolf that just bursts out of a wall to kill me?
Yeah.
Like, how come I have to level up to like these weird, like this nest of hands and faces that's like, like it's terrifying. It's weird. I don't understand it at all. I don't know what the story is to this game, and I don't really care. There's theories, there's ideas about it, but Bloodborne is one of the most important games of all time because it's gorgeous, it's fun, it's excellent, it's hard, but most importantly, it's rewarding. And if you can get past the nightmare bone horse woman and the hand nest and the horse wolf bone monster and all the other famous characters in Bloodborne, you'll beat the game and you still won't know what happened, but you'll feel awesome.
I mean, Bloodborne is an incredibly satisfying game to play that I think, even in the beginning, like watching people get their butts kicked
Yeah.
immediately, even is satisfying to watch someone else do it. Where there are games that are hard that are frustrating to watch, but Bloodborne was like a huge community experience in the same way that Dark Souls has been on YouTube and on Twitch. Like people love watching these games because seeing someone succeed at them is so triumphant.
I had a bunch of people tweet at me and they were like, hey, you talked about that game in the first street with 20 dudes. It's like the first area of that game. I just called it the first street with 20 dudes. And they're like, I got past the 20 dudes and I got to fight like the giant man that beats the wall. And I was like, yeah, all right.
It's those micro accomplishments.
It is. It
So
really
before
is.
moving on, a couple nights ago, FromSoft showed a tease of a thing that maybe had a bone and a noise
Yep.
and some Japanese writing, and then it just ended. And
Yeah.
We're like, we'll see you all in 2018.
I enjoyed that 3 seconds.
do you think that was Bloodborne 2?
I think that what they evoked from me was every possible human emotion in 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Like I was like, yeah, what? Like it was a whole entire life cycle of human
Beautiful.
emotion.
Yeah, yeah.
So I hope so. I mean, I want people to make whatever they want. I want game developers to shine and artists to create what they want to create. But more importantly, I want Bloodborne too.
That's pretty much what we all want. Bloodborne, amazing. That's our first game. Andrew.
Wait, can we make them guess what this is going to be?
Hey, but
Is it
which
yet?
one?
Which Persona?
Andrew, you have the sole representative of the Vita on the list. So
Hell yeah, I do.
P4 Golden is one of the 10 best PlayStation games of all time.
Yeah, I chose Persona 4 Golden. I struggled with Persona 3 versus Persona 4 versus Persona 5. I think 4, it's sort of like the Goldilocks thing of the too hot, too cold. Persona 4 is such an incredible balance of everything that I think makes Persona special. These characters are like, you fall in love with them and you care about them so quickly, and they have this really cool like Scooby-Doo mystery gang vibe as they're solving like these extremely awful mysteries, but also like bonding throughout the process. And I think this game is like bonding with the members of your party is like such a interesting way to like immediately get to know them. And
Yeah.
I think like the social aspects are so perfected over what they introduced in Persona 3, and then also custom dungeons are so much better. Like Persona 3 had one dungeon you keep coming back to, and this was the first time they kind of put out that idea that like everyone has their own kind of motif.
So the thing is, I haven't, my horrible confession, I've never played Persona 4. But I know boo. There's a lot of reasons to boo me, that's one of them. But I put 110 hours into Persona 5, and it's my game of the year. Persona 5 to me is lockdown game of the year, 2017. I don't know, does anyone else agree with me for there?
Yeah.
And so I feel like I do need to go back and play this. And I know you have to sort of do that thing where you like time travel ostensibly and go back and be like, all right, we need to put myself on obviously more primitive hardware of the Vita, and it's not quite as refined as Persona 5, but like if this is anywhere in the realm of Persona 5, then I know this is incredible.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can take it with you.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I think the Vita, on Vita, it shines because it's portable. Because it's a game that takes so long, and that's why like no one wants to put 110 hours
Yeah.
into
You
a
do.
game if they.
Exactly.
Well, I super do. I've put like 400 hours.
Yeah,
into
you
it.
played
I
like
got
on
it,
Attack 5 times. You played it in Japanese.
Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah, well,
But
that's
Persona 4.
That's for our intervention panel.
Yeah,
That'll be next year
exactly.
at PSX. All right, moving on. Our third game, Alana. This is going to be the furthest back game. We're going back to the PS2.
Okay, I was really worried about which one you were going to pick.
No, we're going to the PS2, and sticking sort of with Bloodborne with a spooky game. You picked Silent Hill 2.
I did. Look, you can do a little bit better than that. Silent Hill 2 is a very good game.
Yeah.
This was a really easy pick for me, aside from trying to decide between PT or Silent Hill 2. And I ultimately was like, all right, it's a playable teaser. It doesn't count as a game. But I think Silent Hill 2 is a horror game that does a really, really good job of both making you terrified and making you really invested in the characters that are in that game. And the whole time, it blew my mind. Like, every part of that game, I have no idea what's happening, and then there's this revelation. And I feel like that was one of the first plot twists in a video game that I was like, oh, y'all played me.
Yeah.
I didn't see this coming,
Y'all
like,
played
at all. But it's also, I think, one of the first survival horror games that had a movable camera, which was,
Yeah.
like, kind of changed that genre. We originally had the fixed camera Resident Evil style, and then that sort of adapted that. And I think that has really branched the genre out of what survival horror means today. And I mean, it's a 10, 15-hour campaign full of terrifying things that I never could have expected. And I think that there are still things in Silent Hill 2 that scare me more than any horror game that I've played to date. And that's almost my favorite genre. So, yeah.
I mean, it also has horror in the form of Pyramid Head, which is a physically imposing, terrifying nightmare beast.
Which I still love. Like,
Oh, absolutely. The design on that is perfect. But then
such a bizarre but amazing thing.
But it also deals with like mental illness
And relationships
loss of a
and-
family member and like
That's a
real
weird shot.
horror. There's- Yeah, that is a weird shot. I'm going to
It
agree
is.
with that. You know what? I feel like in the realm of Silent Hill 2, that's
Not
fitting.
even that weird.
Yeah,
really.
that's fitting.
Yeah,
No,
but it also inspired one of my favorite games ever made, which is Deadly Premonition.
Yeah.
And it's like just the core of so many good survival horror games. And I think for the time, especially like a technical masterpiece too.
Yeah,
So.
absolutely. And I just think it's heartbreaking that we're never going to see what Silent Hills would have been.
But Silent Hill PT is so good.
Silent Hill
that
PT
how
is so
could Hills
good.
have ever lived up to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's good unless someone steps on your PlayStation 4 and then you never have it again.
That
You
happened.
don't put your
to Mario.
PS4 on the floor. That's just like
Where am I supposed to put it?
an entertainment cabinet, you child.
I've seen his room. There's literally nowhere else he can
All right,
put it.
all right, money bags, entertainment cabinets.
They're free on the street.
Thank you so much. That's 3 of our games. Max, your game, I think of anything named so far, is probably possibly the most influential game on this entire list. Let's go back to Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah, so, yeah, this game changed the way people make games. I know that we're talking best, but I think most influential and the thing that just really launched everything. Go out on that floor and walk around. How many of those games are open world? How many of those are sandbox games? It's crazy to think that there is a single game you can go to that's like the one that changed how games are made. It changed the landscape, both metaphorically and like literally. It is literally a landscape you explore. It turns you loose. But in addition to that, it also it kind of raised the bar for maturity in games, kind of ironically because it's really very bawdy and tongue-in-cheek and kind of almost adolescent in its sense of humor. But because this was a game that wasn't just like, I don't know, it wasn't just violence for the sake of violence or bawdiness. It was a game that did attract adults, and it started a conversation about what is and isn't acceptable in games, and it caused video games ratings to be kind of re-examined. And look at this. It's a room full of adults, and we play games, and that's okay. And I don't know, GTA 3 was a game that came along and was both mechanically just stunning and groundbreaking and impressive, but also in terms of showing what video games could be and how they could be accepted in society, it definitely started a new conversation.
Yeah, I mean, a majority of games before this were point A to point B, where this was, well, there's an A, and then there's a Z, and then do whatever you want in between that. Do the letters in whatever order you want. I mean, this ushered in, we take it for granted now, but like, think about any open world Ubisoft game, think about any of the Arkham games, think about Infamous, think about Horizon. Like the fact that you know you have a goal, but then the world is full of things to just do and explore and have fun with. And you just, maybe all you want to do is just try to see if you can get the farthest jump. Maybe all you want to do is just drive around the city and listen to music.
And it cemented Rockstar as the people to do that.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, like Rockstar now is synonymous with this type of game, and especially synonymous with games that like take forever and are incredible and game changing. And I think like really GTA 3, that is like you talk about influential, that is the moment I remember playing a game and being like, oh, games are way more than I thought they were. Because like it changed everything after that.
Yeah, it's not the best GTA game, but it is probably the most important.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
GTA 3 got me through my first breakup.
Oh.
Like I feel like a lot of people have video games they associate with breakups.
You were angry, huh?
It was more that it was the game that I had at the time that breakup
Yeah.
existed. But because of that, I really strongly remember the soundtrack too. Like I remember so distinctly the music I was listening to at that time after I broke up with, his name was Marcus.
Classic
to
Marcus.
say-
I was very young.
out to
From
Marcus.
Detroit?
Yeah,
Don't have to put his name out there like that.
Marcus on
Marcus.
blast. As there's one guy in the back who's like, I'm sorry.
But I feel like that was like one of the first video games I remember having a really distinct soundtrack as well. And
Oh,
that
absolutely.
licensed
That's another thing,
music
I mean-
and the way that it played was organic and,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
It's fitting,
chord
it's a-
was cool.
It's
Yeah.
called Rockstar Games, and they were like, hey, let's put like real music in there. You know,
Yeah.
not just, I mean, not to say that video game music isn't real, but
Yeah.
come on.
Also,
Radio stuff.
aren't you guys
Rock and roll.
excited for Red Dead Redemption 2? Fair.
It's gonna have a full licensed soundtrack. You heard it here first. It's gonna be authentic music from when they put on those wax cylinders.
And we brought an exclusive trailer. Let's
No, we did not.
That didn't happen. That did not happen.
No.
Awesome. So for my first pick, talking about, again, an influential game, a game that is literally synonymous with the name of the genre it created, at least the back half of the genre, I want to talk about Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Ooh.
Nice.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were doing that up
Yeah.
here. All right.
Yeah, I mean, you sort of take for granted, again, like GTA 3, the dime a dozen. You go out there and games have pulled from what Super Metroid and Symphony of the Night did. You go and play, something like Guacamelee or SteamWorld Dig, or even like the way an Arkham game opens up to where it sort of gates out portions of the game and you need to grow as a character and learn these abilities, and these abilities are your key. Even The Witness sort of did that.
Even
It-
Bloodborne,
Bloodborne,
to
yeah,
an extent, right?
absolutely. But to me, Symphony of the Night is not only the best Castlevania game of all time, so the best Igarashi game of all time, but I think it has legitimately perfect world design and perfect combat, and is a game that continually rewards you for exploring and for looking out every nook and cranny and of being like, oh, I didn't realize that there were familiars in this game. Oh, I didn't realize I can turn into a wolf or turn into mist.
Well, yeah, you talk about your character evolving, but I think like one of the best things about it is that the environment evolves as well.
Yes.
By a lot, and
Yeah.
that is almost a mechanic.
Yeah.
And that's a thing that Castlevania really spearheaded.
Well, and we take it for granted now because all of us know it, but like legitimately, when I was playing this game as a kid and you figured out, you're like, oh, I didn't have to kill that Belmont. I can get my sunglasses and then hit this thing on the top of his head. And then you're like, oh no, you are halfway done with this game. There's an entire inverted castle above here. That is to me like, that is right there with Would You Kindly as like the greatest video game twist / moment
Yep.
of all time.
Yeah, that was huge when we first played that when we were younger. You mentioned great world design, and so many games have that, but how many of them can you literally turn upside down and they're still just as fun?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're playing a portable, you just do that.
That's true, that's cheating though.
It's far less
Flip
fun
your,
though.
Don't
flip
do that at all.
your Vita over.
I feel like it's far less fun
Never
if
do
you
that.
do that.
That makes Tetris crazy, by the way.
That's like Death Stranding, where everything's falling upwards. Yeah, it's beautiful. So yeah, we'll just, that was half of the list. We'll circle back down, so I'll just start again with my second pick, thinking of world design and incredible sort of atmosphere and a game that makes you feel something. I had a toss between this developer's first and second game, and I ended up going with their first, and so I want to talk about Eco.
Nice.
Yeah. Look, they're holding hands. I mean, that's... yeah, so I had a really tough time picking between this and Shadow of the Colossus. They are probably two of my favorite PlayStation 2 games of all time, two of my absolute favorite games of all time. And I think I ended up settling on Eco because I ended up replaying it last year for the anniversary. I think it was last year or 2 years ago for the anniversary. And the image you have here of Eco and Yorda holding hands, this game does something so simple with a mechanic of holding hands, which is something all of us have done. Have you all held a hand before?
Never.
No.
This is
Strongly
Max's
against
first
it.
time. Baby's
Your hands are so moist.
They are moist.
Yeah,
I got the
yeah.
moisties. It happens.
Been multiple jokes about
yeah.
that.
But the act of holding hands as this is your mechanic in the game, and this is like it represents love and it represents trust and represents this bond between these two people who frankly have never met each other until he breaks out of his weird cage because he has horns and he sees this princess all these shadows want to get. And I think one thing that Team Eco has done incredibly with all three of their games is environmental quiet storytelling, and their games are just packed with amazing stories and lore and world and characters. But like Bloodborne, I feel like it really trusts the player to glean what that means.
I think that there's the sort of age-old, like, save the princess, help the princess trope, and in this one, there's this sort of hauntingness to it all that I think changes that, and the entire dynamic of having that character with you, interacting, helping them, helping each other through scenarios, is so much different than, like, getting to the end of the game and, like, Princess Peach is just standing there being like, oh, thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Like, she's there the whole time in this game, and there's something wonderful about that connection.
Yeah, and there's like heartbreak and melancholy, just a
You
beautiful.
love those things.
Yeah.
Heartbreak and yeah, I mean,
Well, and
that's-
this also established the themes that I think Ueda and all of Team Eco kind of kept going. Like this feels like such an important foundation for what we then built onto for
also,
Shadow.
like
and,
real talk, we
Guardian.
talked to a lot of game developers, and literally 50% of them, if you talk to them about major influences on their careers, they will cite this game or Shadow.
Yeah.
Yep.
In terms of like what they want to accomplish in terms of storytelling and making the player feel something. So yeah, cool game. Max, this morning we got to talk to someone really interesting. What did we do this morning? What was our first appointment of the morning?
We went and sat down across a small coffee table from Hideo Kojima.
Anyone heard of him?
Yeah, have you guys heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid, the
Yeah.
first one. They're all weird and strange and all over the place, but this one is, yeah, exactly. I think it's frustrating that video games are this sort of like, they're an emerging, almost adolescent medium that is always kind of trying to prove itself as like a valid narrative storytelling art form. And I think this is just a really, really important example of kind of just pushing that envelope and making something that feels like a movie but is still incredibly interactive. It's a game where you run around with guns, but it's not a game about strictly shooting people. It's a game that manages to just invent this entire, well, it didn't, the world was kind of there, but it was on the MSX and nobody had that. And it's just, I don't know. I played this game and I was like, this sounds like a movie. This feels like a movie. I care about the characters. They feel like characters, not just avatars who you're controlling through this world. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about Metal Gear Solid. If you haven't played it, you got holes in your brain. I don't know.
It's also got that stealth action gameplay that still holds up today. So it is a well-made game that also happens to have a well-made story. That sometimes games like screw up, have one or the other, but it's a perfect pairing of those two things as well. And it's satisfying to play still.
It's also sort of understated. In retrospect, we picked up on it a lot more. There's been so many sort of like military tactical stealth games and action games like that. Metal Gear as a franchise has always been really funny.
Yeah.
And I think that there's like adult magazines in the locker rooms, and you hide in a box and sneak around, and there's a little exclamation mark that pops over things. Like there's a jokiness to all of that I think gets lost in a lot of the sort of more heavy-handed military third-person action stealth games.
Yeah, I think it's one of the first games that really acted like people were playing it. Like it really kind of acknowledges the player to the point of just straight up screwing with the player. And that's key. It's an interactive medium, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's also great. This is one of those things, like, we chose Metal Gear Solid 1, but you could have put 3, you could have put Sons of Liberty, you could have put 5 on this list, and I think all of us would have been just as happy.
Yeah, I feel like we have some, like, sort of, like, franchise representatives on a lot of our entries, right?
Yeah, and then just to plug what we did this morning, we talked to Kojima for an hour, or for half an hour. We're going to have the interview go up later, but we know what gameplay is like in Death Stranding now.
A little bit. I mean,
gameplay exists.
Yeah.
So
you ask that guy questions, and you come out with more questions.
Yeah. But so look for that soon. Alana.
Yes.
I think this is going to be the most controversial pick on the list.
Also, I'm very scared about it now because nobody's said Okami or The Last of Us. So I'm getting real worried as this is moving down. Right, so the next game that I picked is one that I picked ultimately because I thought it would be fun to argue with people about, and that is Until Dawn. That's a game that 5 people clap for. It's a game that I don't think is perfect by any means, but I feel very passionately about it because it's this, campy horror story that you play through. And I actually played through the whole game with my mom, who doesn't play video games. And it's just like intense moments of yelling at each other about these decision-making processes. And it's one of the first times that I felt like a game inspired by a movie has actually like totally nailed that feeling. And it's still fun to replay. There are games that people play with it, like you divide all of the characters into teams and you have to try to keep them all alive and kill all of the other players' characters. And you can do all of this like evolutionary stuff with it that still holds up. It's also just well voice acted. There's a very impressive cast. It's a very pretty game, and I still have a ton of questions. And hopefully, it's getting. We know The Inpatient is coming next year, but I'm hoping that we are going to see more of a franchise out of it because it was like basically the cabin in the woods of video games that I really wanted to have.
You got the roller coaster game, right?
Yeah, the
Rush of Blood?
Rush of
Yeah,
Blood.
Rush of Blood.
I liked it.
That was a thing. Yeah.
Video games and video gamers in general have a tendency to treat the medium and the industry like it's this kind of exclusive club. We don't really let a lot of people in all the time. We play games. It's a very insular experience. You're focused on the television. You have a VR helmet on. You're on your Vita. Until Dawn, I think, was really special because it let us invite other people into that conversation and play a game like this in group settings. And now suddenly, people are gathered around the TV screaming like they're watching a horror movie together. And you're making decisions in synchronicity or against each other. And there's something magical about that I think a lot of video games attempt, but Until Dawn handles really well.
Yeah, I mean, I was deciding how these characters would live or die with my mother. It was like a moment where there's, if anyone's played it, there's like a saw blade coming down and you have a gun and you have this choice to make, and we had to pause the game and just yell at each other. We're like, what if we shoot her? What if we don't do anything? Do they both die? Like, it was intense. And
terrifying.
There's so few other games that I can parallel with that. So I guess I'm nominating Until Dawn as an experience that I think is unlike a lot of other games, but please someone say The Last of Us.
Andrew. Hey, Andrew.
Sorry.
You know what game you're not going to say?
I didn't say The Last of Us, although I feel similar pressure now for me and Brian on the last 2 choices.
You know what?
Persona 5.
No, Andrew, I am very excited that you chose this game because once you submitted it, I was like, whew, weight off my shoulder. This would be my personal number 1 if we want to start talking about it. Andrew, tell us about Journey.
A big Journey.
That's right. That's good.
So, also, I like how I picked 2 games in the same year. Journey, for me, represents so much. I mean, it's, number 1, it is the most incredible single-session emotional feeling I've probably ever gotten from a game. I think I've never walked away from a few hours in front of a screen. Like, I was just covered in tears. I was like, I immediately replayed it. Like, I've gone through that journey so many times now, and it's still so special to me. Like, there's nothing that game loses. And Journey is sort of really, it's an incredible representative of, I think, what makes the PlayStation ecosystem really special. I think kind of the way that that game company was born through their partnership with Sony and kind of the example that's set that now we're seeing with Giant Sparrow, that, so many other devs like via XDev that like followed in the footsteps of that game company kind of became a little bit of what makes Sony special. And Journey is just such a magical, beautiful game that cemented that game company as like such incredible, just they understand how to elicit emotions better than pretty much any other game developer working.
Yeah, I mean, my whole thing is if I was to have to choose a single video game to put the medium's best foot forward, and be like, this is what I want to present, I think I would show Journey.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's. I don't know, it's a pejorative when you're like, video games, this one's for all ages, rated E for everyone, but this is a 3-hour experience that doesn't try to kick your ass at every turn.
Yeah.
It's a game about kind of really connecting with the world around you, and it's just beautiful. It scales well. We're going to be talking about this game in 20 years still.
And we still compare things to it. Like when people talk about like Death Stranding or any other game, they're like, I wonder if this multiplayer will be like Journey, and like that, it set this new standard for what connecting with other players could be. And there is that weird feeling of the game ends and you see the people you went with and you can't change your PSN name, so they all have weird Bong references and stuff in them. But it's still really cool to know that you shared that with somebody.
Yeah. Hey,
First time I saw another player in that game, it was like when two dogs see each other at a park, and they're like, are you gonna kill me? Oh, we're friends now. Okay, yeah, cool. We're friends. We're high-fiving and catching the ball.
The first time I played through it, I assumed it was an NPC.
Yeah.
And got to the end and was like, oh, that was a human?
Yeah,
I didn't
and
know that was
it's so cool too because like I've gone back through and gotten like the white robes where you can like restore somebody's scarf, and like I legitimately spent time just standing at the bottom of that peak and like helping people up, which is such a weird thing to do in a video
true,
game.
because the first time that you play through Journey is like this thing where you're learning, and then when you help someone else or you play with another character, you're like, oh, I'll guide you and show you where to go, and it's like that in itself is beautiful, getting to help other people through the game even though you don't talk to them.
Yep, and even the chirps say so much without saying anything. Like I find this game so beautiful. And
It is pretty magical.
yeah.
I miss it. I miss that world already.
All right,
You can still play it.
yeah, I don't know, the game's there.
Yeah, it's still there.
We have 9 games
Yeah.
on the list. Alana, you seem incredibly nervous.
Yeah, I am too.
Oh, Brian.
Brian,
Now you got to put pressure on me. Naughty Dog is one of the most legendary game designers of all time. I think.
Can it be Naughty Dog? Can we just nominate them? That's even easier.
I'm getting there. One of my favorite video games of all time.
Until
And when I
Dawn,
had to
Rush of
pick
Blood.
one
Wait,
game
what do you-
from
before
Naughty
he
Dog
goes,
to
what do you guys
add
think
to
this game's
list,
gonna
It had to be The Last of Us.
Thank you. I would guess Uncharted 2 or The Last of Us. But
Naughty Dog is one of the most incredible game designers of all time. I feel that their narrative is unmatched. I love the Uncharted games. Uncharted 2 is one of my favorite video games of all time. But when I had to pick one game from Naughty Dog to add to this list, it had to be The Last of Us.
thank you. All right,
Back to-
we're all good. Everyone's fine. Everything's fine.
Are we
did it.
cool? Are we good? Can we breathe now? We can breathe. It's so hard to take the body of work of Naughty Dog and pick one game there because they're competing with themselves in so many different ways. But The Last of Us is something that stuck with me in a way that no other video game has. We talked about eco and sort of bringing a character with you all along through this journey and helping them and how that can be beautiful and both haunting. And I think this game encapsulates that so well right unto the last moment, the very bitter end, which I will not spoil in this room because there's a handful of you that probably, you're nodding. Did you play it? Yeah, okay. This is for you then. Heroes are not always heroes, and villains are not always villains, and that's gray and nebulous. And when it comes to love and family, I think that becomes even trickier. When you take all of that and you funnel into a video game, well, then it has to look awesome, check. It has to play awesome, check. And with a horror game, it has to be terrifying, check. Yeah. Terrifying nightmare cauliflower people try to kill you. Yeah. And when they're not, humans want to do it. And I don't know if they want to make love to you or eat you. You never know. Or both. It's really gross and horrible, and I love this game.
I mean, even the characters that aren't physically there with all the world building, like the notes you find in The Last of Us, are just like so emotional. There's just so many things that are heartbreaking in it that I think the whole way through, I was sad and I was scared and I was tense and nervous. But that feeling never left me. There was no low point. And I think one thing that we always overlook is how well that world is designed. It's a linear game that almost feels open because everything is so dense. And there are a lot of areas you can explore that are really open in themselves, but it's still just it's a linear game that never makes you feel trapped.
I think
Yeah, and it makes you fill in the blanks. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so that ambiguity is so important. Like you mentioned the end, but even like you see kind of how this thing began, and then you see Joel and Ellie's journey. But like there's so much that the game teaches you through environmental storytelling
Yeah.
and bits you find, like that you fill in everything for yourself.
Walking down the street in like a quiet, sort of dull suburbia in that game where everything feels normal, and then you turn into a house and you realize like,
Transform into
You
a
become
house.
a house?
yeah, you should become a house. I got the special edition. And you go in to like loot this house for like rubbing alcohol and like bricks so you can throw them at cauliflower people. And what do you find? You find like the bedroom of a girl that died, and you're just looking at her posters on her wall, and you're like, this is terrifying. Like there was a life here, and there's a whole story, and it doesn't yell at you and go like, here's a story of this. You don't even have to go in that room.
Yeah.
It's just there for you to find and build out the world. And they're so fantastic at that, and I can't wait to see what comes next.
Yeah. Hey, good news. There's a second one coming.
What?
Yeah. There is, yeah.
And we have the exclusive trailer.
No, we don't. We don't have that.
All right, we have our 10 games, so that was the easy portion.
Okay.
God.
So now these are our 10 games. Now we lose friendships and trust with the audience. So for the last 15 minutes, how the hell are we going to do this?
I have no idea. Can we just like throw a number out there?
Let's. Oh, how
I
about
mean, I think Castlevania and GTA 3 are probably the top two, right? Like realistically.
Are we-
Metal
we
Gear
don't-
Solid?
we
Metal
don't
Gear
know
Okay, sorry. Those two and Metal
Journey,
Gear.
The Last of
Yeah,
Us.
what I'm saying is the most influential ones I would start with to debate. Not saying place it on the list, but I'm saying let's start
Okay,
with the.
okay. Why don't we start with what we think number 10 is?
Okay.
Because I think that's Until Dawn,
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
no,
We
no
agree it's Until
disrespect
Dawn?
to it, but you know.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think we can agree it's on
Yeah,
Dawn.
we
have
agreed.
one.
Yeah.
We all agreed on something.
Are we happy with that?
Oh, I forgot we were. I thought.
Is
Lana
there
left.
anyone
I
very
forgot we were
upset that
ready.
Until Dawn is number 10? There was just one person.
You two will be fine.
Yeah. Oh, we're going downwards.
All right. So while she's very slowly writing that, the inpatient is on the show floor. It's a prequel to Until Dawn. You're in that hospital that was all wrecked, and it's still
Yeah.
wrecked. It's just less wrecked, and it's all first-person VR. It's very spooky, but mechanically, it's also really interesting. Those guys are doing some cool stuff over there. I figured I'd talk about that.
Yeah.
Because she's writing very slowly.
No,
So I'm
she
glad,
has
I'm
several
glad we have
numbers now.
we have one. I'm not really sure what goes next because I think this is when we're only at 9, and I think things are already starting to get tricky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like when I think about what GTA 3 and Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid have built after, I feel like those contributions.
But
like
that's
I'm
not
always
necessarily the point. Does that
Fair.
make them a good game?
Yeah,
I mean,
that absolutely makes it a
GTA
good
3 was
game.
my pick, but I'll go as far to say that's not the best GTA by any means.
Right, but there's
But the other
one
ones
on this
couldn't
list.
exist without it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but then you're comparing it against, like, look at these.
So
these
we've
are,
entered a
these
time
are
paradox.
like
for me,
iconic games.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Look, okay.
when I look at games I want to go back and play right now,
It's all of them.
it's all of them. But my thing is, I don't think I'd go back and play GTA 3 because I think I'd go back and play 5,
Okay.
Vice City. Or
So, but then we're debating like whether or not it stands the test of time versus the impact it
that's
had.
what we're debating. That's literally what the end of this
Well,
panel
no,
is.
because we're changing the rules every 10 seconds.
There were no rules.
what
We
if
didn't
I-
make
what
rules.
if I
That's
just-
us.
Well, now we're adding rules.
What if I throw this out there? How do we feel about putting The Last of Us as number 1?
Yes.
I don't feel like we can just do that wholesale yet.
Well, that's why I asked.
I don't feel like
Okay.
we could do that
That's
yet.
the question.
I think there's a.
I think it's in the conversation, but I
Yeah.
think it's
We didn't
right
say
why
along.
we
we
start
didn't say we were
arguing.
counting
It's
them
in the
down or
conversation.
ranking
It's
them.
up
I think
there.
that's-
I think it's in the conversation with Journey, and I think it's in the conversation with Metal Gear.
I
All right,
think
so
if
you're
we're,
not
if we're
willing to
making the
concede.
argument that Metal Gear and GTA represent the entire franchise, I think The Last of Us represents Naughty Dog's entire body of work, and they've been integral to PlayStation since the very first days. I mean, the original PlayStation
Yeah, so what's
mascot
number
was
9?
Crash Bandicoot. I don't know. Just
I don't think Silent Hill's number 9.
I don't think Silent Hill's number 9. No.
Blood? No.
Well, do
Hold
you
on.
guys want to help? What would you put as number 9?
I'm fine with GTA 3.
I didn't hear any of that.
They
oh,
said
Caleb
what?
said Persona 4.
Caleb said Persona 4 at 9.
Yeah, right there.
Wait, if you think Persona 4 Golden should be number 9, yell. If you think GTA 3 should be number 9, I feel like GTA was a little bit
I
louder.
feel like I am more okay with GTA 3 being number 9 for the reason that it's a good game. It's an iconic game. It's a game that I love, but I don't think it's as good as even San Andreas
Hey,
or
there's
Vice
no
City.
shame
GTA
in being in 9th place.
I feel the same way about GTA
Of all of
3.
the games in
To be
PlayStation's
honest,
history.
To be honest, for me, like I love Eco, but I really love Shadow of the Colossus. And I feel like Shadow of the Colossus can't exist without what Eco kind of built. But for me, GTA 3 versus Eco in terms of level of influence are equal, like are not equal, because Eco inspired the whole rest of Team Eco's incredible collection. GTA 3 inspired half the games that are here today.
Right.
And I feel like that immediately puts it above number 9 for me. Like that moves it way closer to the top.
I don't even think. I mean, I love Silent Hill too, and I don't think it's part of the debate of. I don't think it's a top 5 from. On
I don't think it's a top 5, but I think it's
I don't
better
think
than
it's
9.
9, I agree.
I think it's better than 9.
I don't think it's better than GTA 3.
Do you want to just skip 9 and do 2 8s?
Sure.
We're only fighting about 9 specifically.
Can we? I feel like this is where we gang up and bully Andrew and put Persona 4
Oh man.
as number 9.
I will say so. Thank you.
I was going to say this is when we defer to Andrew's expertise, and he tells us where Persona 4 should be on the list, and then we
Brian.
tell him. Then we bully up.
Oh, wait, God, this is painful for me to say. I don't think I would put Persona, of these games, I don't know that I can responsibly put Persona in like the 1, 2, or 3 spot or anything. I also don't think it needs to be number 9. I think it needs to be somewhere in between.
So what do you put at number 9, Andrew?
Eco.
I'm okay with Eco being.
Okay.
I'm okay with Eco being in the latter 5 of the list, just because yes, it's an iconic game, but it doesn't play that well now.
So we Eco at number. We got it because we have to move. We have 9
Yeah.
minutes. Eco at
Eco
number
at
9.
number 9.
Oh, yeah.
I
We
hate you.
really just
I hate
really
the
just
4.
threw that there, didn't we?
I hate the 4 of you, and I hate anyone who didn't
Caleb's
yell that. But I
leaving
love
now.
everyone who did yell. Caleb just
There's
left.
several men walking out of the building. Okay, so
An
if we
IGN
have-
employee just walked out of this panel. That's how bad we're screwing this up here.
if we have Eco as 9, I don't even know where to go from here. Even that was hard.
Just put Silent Hill 2. Like, where do we
Yeah,
really
it's
think this is going to be top 5?
I would want it to be 6.
Marty, you had 3 letters to write, and 2
Okay,
of them
all
are
right.
terrible. How did you do that?
That looks like it says 160.
That's my favorite cop code.
I still really want to just put The Last of Us as number 1.
We'll get there.
We're getting there, Alana.
I think it's an easy one.
Counting down.
Okay, we gotta choose a quick. My gut here. Don't.
This one is 8?
I'm not budging on this. Bloodborne is top 3. 1.
Okay. I am. What if we put GTA 3?
A lot of people want me dead now.
What if
Just get it's GTA 3. I'll just,
Okay, we're gonna
Sorry,
do GTA 3.
just put that up there.
Really?
Fair.
Under Silent Hill?
I think because
Yeah, I think-
Silent Hill 2, I think, is a perfect horror game that didn't need to be iterated on.
What color should I use for GTA 3? So, you guys are making a decision.
Just go.
Sorry.
Just. Okay, so we got GTA 3. So now we're at number 7. How
mean,
about
if
how
I'm
about that
the-
P4?
Persona 4 is. I'm not going to argue because you guys are going to make fun of me if I say the Vita thing. I think Persona 4 proved
You should
why the
argue.
Vita
Argue
was
with us.
able. Persona 4
Are you
Golden-
doing a TED Talk? What is that?
Let me tell you
I'm trying to move
about
this along.
Persona.
This feels like a play now.
I will consider
Well, if
Persona
I
4
told
being
you that
7.
Persona 4
In order to make this easy, my argument for Persona 4 Golden specifically is that it made the Vita in the same way that Killzone Shadowfall Killzone Mercenary tried to do. I think Persona 4 took this incredible 100-hour thing and you had it in your hand and you could play it in the train, you could play it in the bus, and like that to me started to prove what the Vita could do.
Do you want pink or orange?
But that's. So why don't you just write Vita then? Like that's not the game
You
itself,
get
right?
sandy tan.
Don't give him peach.
All right, Persona 4 Golden.
It's a sandy tan, Brian.
Okay.
So we have Until Dawn at 10, Eco at 9. That was really bad handwriting, man.
You can't even read that.
Castlevania Symphony of the Night is so many more letters. That's
What
gonna
is
be so
that?
difficult.
What is that color?
It's sandy tan. I
it's
just
peach,
told
I'm
you.
telling
It's
you.
golden.
That was what Max handed me.
GTA 3 and then Persona 4 Golden. So we're
I'm
at number
cool
6.
with Silent Hill being at 6.
Okay, I'm okay with that too.
We're okay with Silent Hill 2
I'll
being
take
at
Silent
number
Hill
6.
6.
Yeah.
Are we okay
How,
with
how
that?
do you guys feel about this?
All right.
Oh man, you cannot read Persona.
She is
from
not
far away.
happy about that. I agree. I think Silent Hill 2 is the best horror game of all time. That's not PT, but that doesn't count because that's not how the world works.
Is that a game? Is we calling that a game, PT? It's a hallway.
That's a game. You're a hallway.
I am a hallway.
Yeah.
Full of ghosts.
What are you saying?
That's like your Tinder bio. All right, so we have the back half of the list, which means the games we're debating right now are The Last of Us, Symphony of the Night, Journey, Metal Gear Solid, and Bloodborne.
Okay.
I would put Journey at 1.
Okay, we're not at number 1
one.
yet,
Why is
Andrew.
everyone-
No, because
Marty,
I feel
can you and I have a conversation real quick?
Hey, Brian.
Symphony of the Night and Bloodborne, right? I feel like they are almost part of the same like cinematic universe
Yeah.
in a weird way. I don't think you would have a game like. I mean, I'll flat out say you wouldn't have Bloodborne without Castlevania. Period.
Yeah.
And I think that Symphony of the Night is the pinnacle of the Castlevania franchise, and I played them all.
Did you even play Castlevania 64?
Yeah.
That was bad. That had a
I
light
thought I
that
played them
opened
all.
it.
I even played the fighting game. I would put Symphony of the Night above Bloodborne. Hesitantly, but I would put it above there.
Above as in like a higher number?
Yes.
Wait.
Closer towards 1.
Okay.
Yeah. Lower?
What?
Lower, below, above.
Okay, so if we're arguing Symphony of the Night or Bloodborne
That was
right
helpful.
now,
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
who thinks number 5 should be Symphony of the Night? Who thinks number 5 should be Bloodborne?
I
That's
think this
surprising.
is why, and I
Okay.
pitched Bloodborne for this list. I'm in agreement with the audience here.
All right, I'm going to rewrite
5
Persona because
Bloodborne?
you can't see it because you wrote it in a weird tan
Max
color.
handed me Sandy Gold or
Just
whatever it's
redo
called.
this.
Okay, so
Sandy
number
Tan.
5 is going to be Bloodborne, and we're happy with that? Why don't you just write the rest of the list? You have
This
a
is
you have a
also
steady
terrible.
hand.
Sure.
What do you?
Okay, so number
they're
5
all-
is-
they're all bad colors.
Get the
I'm
marker
sorry.
out of here.
They can't all be bad
think they're
colors.
great
It's
colors.
impossible.
Okay,
There's like
so-
2 light grays and 8 pinks.
Okay, so 5
Okay,
Bloodborne.
so 5 is going to be Bloodborne.
Okay.
This
All
is
right.
where it's going to get.
Well, and that's what I started saying about. So it sounds like Alana wants Last of Us at 1, and I would fight for Journey at 1.
Let's
I think you
worry
would fight.
about
I know.
number
I know. Let me
4.
finish saying that. Does anyone here think that of the remaining games, are you fighting for Metal Gear 1? Like what I'm saying is, if you don't want Metal Gear 1, then let's talk about it at 4 or 3.
I think.
What?
I think,
What? Just
I
say
think,
it.
I
Say
think
it.
a good number 4 is Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, just right after Bloodborne.
I think that's
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Are we happy with
fair.
Symphony of the Night being a solid number 4?
Which in that case, I think immediately puts Metal Gear 3, and then we talk about the Last of
No,
Us version.
that doesn't immediately do that. That's
He
this
just
is-
he proposed it for the list, and he just said he wouldn't fight for it at 1. That's what I'm saying.
I spelled
How do you know I wouldn't?
I spelled it
Symphony.
wrong with it. Symphony.
And it's night
Of-
with a K.
I'm going to do that also.
All right.
All right. So this
So we
is how
got
this
Symphony of the Night.
Symphony, thank you, of the night.
friendship.
Is that a
magic.
pony simulating game?
Rolling with it.
Okay, so we have 3 games left. We have Metal Gear Solid, we have Journey, and we have The Last of Us.
And there's the order right there. That works perfectly. Let's shift it on.
Wait,
I'm okay with that.
so at number 3,
Y'all are going to hate me, but I think that Journey should be number 3.
Oh, we lost this fight.
did we lose this fight? Okay,
sorry.
so that was the Journey at number 3. Who thinks Last of Us at number 3? All right, I
Thank
think
you.
we're
No
fine.
one-
I think Last of Us has secured 1 or 2. Who thinks? Wait, what's the last one on the list?
Metal Gear.
Metal Gear.
2.
For number
2
3,
or 1. You're gonna. Yeah.
I mean, so it seems like
sounds like
Journey
Journey's
is
at
number
3.
3.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I mean, hey,
We
yeah.
lost this
That's
fight.
I would not only put Journey as my number 1, but I'd put it at my number 1 game of all time.
Journey is a beautiful game that, when compared to ridiculously expensive things like, it's just, I don't even want to talk about it because you're going to yell at me later. But
Yeah, I am going to yell at you.
I feel like it's not. It's a beautiful contained experience that is not as impactful to me as either of those other 2
Because
games.
you're heartless.
Yes, a little, but I liked all
Marty,
the
look at
sand
it this
stuff.
way. At no point do you fake your own death with a ketchup bottle, and there are no giraffes. So
That's true. All right, Journey at number 3.
That gives you 3 minutes to argue.
I love when we make a decision and I look into the crowd and there's always one person like,
And it's Caleb every time.
they're not yelling, they're not seething, they're just like, I'll let them know later.
Do you want to move down? That way.
Yeah. All right. So this is it. We have 2 games left.
I also just want everyone to know that when we actually do all of our ranked lists or Game of the Year discussions at IGN, we have this exact thing.
Yeah.
Like every single time, it's people being kind of unhappy and then conceding and being like, "But this is impactful. But does that mean it's
This one-
good?" It's
this one's
always
even more
this.
pressure because it's timed. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh,
Can you
fine.
imagine if we timed our meetings? No,
Yeah.
we like have 4 of them. We just
Like
keep
I think
going.
people in the comments think that the first time that argument is happening is in the comments, and it's like, no, we're screaming at each other for days
Absolutely.
at work.
It's
we have a
fun,
minute
man.
and
It's great.
People get
50
mad.
seconds to decide Metal Gear Solid versus The Last of Us.
all right, everybody, shout out what you think should be number 2. I don't.
Thank you.
That's-
Who thinks that The Last of Us should be number 1? Thank you. I'm going to drop this pen and then I'm going to pick it back up again. They would have been very mad at me if I had dropped the mic, so I'm not
You
doing
have
that.
to fall on the ground.
Are we good?
Are we good with Metal
Are we
Gear?
good?
being
I
at
think
number
that
2?
works, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, like the bottom line is these are all incredible
Okay,
games.
there are some people who are so angry.
I already wrote metal. It's too late.
what
Joey wrote
happened?
Metal.
You turned on us so fast. You love it. There we go. This is for you.
So does that mean our #1 game, IGN's Podcast Beyond, ranks the PlayStation games of all time?
Sonic Unleashed.
Sonic Unleashed. Honorable
Sonic
mention.
Unleashed. No, it is The Last of Us. With 50 seconds to spare.
And the crowd is
Yeah.
divided. This is genuinely really good insight into how these lists go in the office. Like, Alana's exactly right. This is exactly how these arguments go.
Also, if we'd done this officially, this is nowhere near what this list would have
No.
turned out like.
So real quick, we have a
dramatically
couple seconds left. What's a game that you would totally put on this list?
I heard Kingdom
Final
Hearts.
Fantasy VII.
I heard Demon Souls.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 17.
Final Fantasy
VII,
9. Thank you to
Fantasy
whoever
9.
said that. I mean, the one that I'm saddest it isn't on the list is Okami.
Yeah.
That's the one that I'm saddest about.
Rugrats.
Rugrats.
That's a good one.
I want to let you all know that we've taken a note of all of those games, and we have exclusive trailers for all of them.
No, we don't, Brian.
One day I just want to do that. I want to be able to do that one day.
Thank you all so much for coming out to PSX and hanging out with us. This was IGN Presents the 10 best PlayStation games of all time.
Thank you.
Dot,
Thank you.
sort of.
Beyond.
Beyond.
Thank you all so much. Beyond!